I see more with my ears than I do my eyes. So by hearing slash seeing about what Mother Nature is picture she is painting for you, if you can get inside of that, we'll go back to stay off my land. I don't want you in my woods because you're starting to figure it out. And it'll take you 20 plus years to realize this unless you pay attention to what I'm saying right here today. And I guarantee you, you're not going to take Bob or Eddie Salters or if Ben Law Rogers Lee was alive, Chris, on and on and on and on. You know, all these what I call, you know, the greats.
The combination of knowing your land with woodsmanship.
Oh, God.
And how, from a turkey hunting perspective, like that's like when you become, I'm not going to say a master, but like you really are super effective when you have that combination of knowledge of your landscape, the woodsmanship skills, and just a little bit of calling can really be deadly on turkeys.
Well, I say it like this. You give me a good woodsman, we'll just simplify it with one word. You give me a good woodsman that is a competitive type caller because I already know the time that they have poured into it. That's the one person I don't want on my land. Forgive them the way I'm going to say this. They're pure death is what they are. And there are several of those out there now. You know, we get the question, well, you can blow that turkey calling, you can win those contests, but can you kill a turkey? Let me tell you what. These old boys that I know, especially in my bracket, or I'm going to say from the 50 and up year old bracket, you don't want them on your land. They understand the language, know how to apply it in reference to being a good woodsman. Okay? Then if they've got to hunt your land once or twice, now they're turning into where they have the knowledge of the territory and the terrain. And then you put those three together, stay off my land.
Yeah, I wanted you to bring that up because I found that very interesting. We've discussed that. Another aspect of kind of talking about woodsmanship is I want to go back to like the Jack Dudleys and some of these guys that you met at a young age that were killing turkeys, hunting turkeys back then. And talk to us from like, did you have any kind of mentorship from a
like in the woods,
like from a hunting standpoint, or is there anything that you guys spend time with these guys?
I only had 99% of what I know I picked up through conversations, like with the Ben Rogers Lees, like with the Jack Dudleys, and on and on and on and on. But as far as a mentor in the woods, I got to hunt with a gentleman out of Brooklyn, Mississippi, Mr. Bud. I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? And Mr. Bud was definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the true meaning of a woodsman. He could not call worth a flip. He used an old M.L. Lynch jet slate, the little rectangular, I guess you want to call them, about 3 inches long, about an inch wide, thereabouts, that had a round knob with a little peg that he had burned it, and he'd sit there and yelp on it, and it sounded real close to somebody scratching their fingernails on a chalkboard. A lot of people don't know what a chalkboard is. But I can tell you what Mr. Bud knew. He knew where to be, when to be, what time, and for what reason. I only got 2 years with him and probably total 3 or 4 hunts max with him. Look, the first time he finally, that's a chapter in the book, okay, if I ever get it done. And it'd take me too long to tell you the whole story. But the first time he took me turkey hunting, you might as well say he had me blindfolded because it was, boy, put your head twixt your legs. Mr. Bud, what are you talking about? Put your head twixt your legs. They don't know darn body know where I turkey hunt at, and you ain't going to find out either, and rode me around for 30 minutes before he ever stopped. And then it's still black dark, and it's still an hour before it even starts breaking dark. I had no earthly idea whenever we left after I killed the bird, and my first 1.5-inch bird, I had to stick my head twixt my legs again to go out of there. That's how secretive, because we didn't have what people, y'all don't know. I mean, the people watching and listening right now have no idea, but it was at the point here again, back when I got my driver's license, I'm 16 years old. It's right down the road, try to find a blasted turkey track. Where one went across the road. And instead of just taking a pine limb and what we call juicing it out, it was take the pine limb, juice it out, and then place leaves on top of it. So the other half a dozen on a couple of 100,000 acres of land didn't find where I juiced it out at, and vice versa. It was about whenever you did kill a bird. Oh, God, I'm fixing to tell some of my dirty secrets right now. I would go to the what I call the local places, if you know what I mean, and I would build me a little grave, pile up dirt, if you know what I mean, and I'd stick a half a dozen feathers around it. So when the next guy come, there was my mark. He's dead. He ain't dead. I'm trying to keep everybody else out of there. Oh, we were dirty.
That classic. I want to ask you about going back to the woodsmanship thing.
Yes.
You mentioned something earlier. Sounds like it started when you were running around in the woods by yourself when you were a kid, and you started listening to the woods
Yes.
and kind of what the woods were saying to you. Explain that a little bit further. Like, what are some things that you mean when you say, like, you just got to listen to the woods?
Let's pre that a little bit first. One of the best things that a youngster could do right now today is go squirrel hunting. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be walking. You're going to be looking. You're going to know where all the creeks, the barbed wire fences are at, the thickets, the sloughs, the hollows, the fields, the power lines, the pipelines, old house places, and on and on and on and on. You're learning that territory, okay? That's first. Repeat the question again, then I'll answer it, okay?
Listening to the woods.
I see more with my ears than I do my eyes, especially now since I got problems with my eyesight and will for the rest of my life, but that's okay. Let me give you an obvious that anybody who has got at least 5 to 10 years of experience should have already figured out by now. I'll give you a scenario. How about that? All of a sudden, I get up this morning, I go, I listen, I'll hoot, whatever it may be. Nothing gobbles, nothing gobbles, nothing gobbles. It starts getting daylight. Okay, now it's full-fledged daylight. And all of a sudden, I hear crows raising Cain over here. From that squirrel hunting, I remember that there's an old pasture over here. I'm heading straight to that pasture because there's at least a 50% chance that those crows are aggravating turkeys that they're looking at, and he just ain't gobbling. I'm sitting there, and it could be a magpie. You know what I'm trying to say? You could be up in the mountains in New Mexico. There are always all animals communicate. For the turkey hunters, don't y'all think whenever you go blundering in the morning and all of a sudden you bust a white-tailed deer out that goes, whew, 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 whew. You don't think that turkey knows what that means? Now I'm sit up and I'm calling, 15 minutes has gone by, and he hasn't gobbled. I hadn't heard him spitting drum. I hadn't heard anything else. There's a little dewberry, blackberry thicket right here, and all of a sudden I hear a thrush start doing a little alarm call. Oh boy, I'm shifting. Because that thrush could be telling me that there's a turkey coming in silent. That cat squirrel that jumps up on the side of the tree and just goes one or two little barks. Not the alarm where they start raising Cain and barking louder and louder and louder. That little cat squirrel, gray squirrel, if y'all want to call it that, we always call them cat squirrels, can be telling me that bird is on the way. I can even mix it in with my calling. I could be yelping like a hen turkey if I'm having, let's just say, problems with a bird, and turn around and take my crow call out, and I'll point it up as if the crows are in the air. And then I'll crow call and crow call and crow call and then yelp. So therefore, I have now told him that there's a crow that's looking at this hen turkey. I put more realism into it. So by listening and pay attention to the sounds, then secondary, the sights. Same scenario. I'm working a bird. He shuts up. Here comes one rabbit running by me. 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, nothing. That rabbit just told me there is a good solid chance that there is a predator in the area. Okay? That means calm down. I'm going to quit calling if I see something like that. You see what I'm saying? I'm through calling because there's a better than 50% chance something spooked that rabbit. And that rabbit is running for a reason. And if that rabbit came from the general direction or where that bird is at, there's a coyote, a bobcat, something that's out there, there's a good chance of it. Now, 2 rabbits come by. That's a horse with a different color. That's boyfriend looking for girlfriend. Hold your ground. So by hearing/seeing about what Mother Nature is picture she is painting for you, if you can get inside of that, we'll go back to stay off my land. I don't want you in my woods because you're starting to figure it out. And it'll take you 20 plus years to realize this unless you pay attention to what I'm saying right here today. And I guarantee you, you're not going to take Bob or Eddie Salters or if Ben Law Rogers Lee was alive, Chris, on and on and on and on. All these what I call, the greats. They will all tell you the same thing. Calling can be an important part of it, but it is, generally speaking, especially in the Deep South, it is generally the minor part unless you have graduated to where you understand that something like, and yeah, I'm pushing a product. Do y'all notice I'm using a rhythm?
Mm-hmm.
You ever watched a hen turkey scratch?
Mm-hmm.
She will go scratch, 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 sometimes a scratch. That right there is one of the most convincing things that you can do, whether you use that or whether you use leaves, on the ground. When you get to that point and you understand about little duets, little whines, little soft stuff, little sweet stuff that he can't hear that. Yeah, he can too. I think the biologists even tell you 6 to 7 times is good. I say 10 times is good. So 10 yards is now 100 yards. 20 yards is now 200 yards. Now the wind is blowing from north, to south or south to north, double that distance downwind from you. And oh my God, he can hear that 400 or 500 yards in. So those are the things that you need to hone in on first. Is going to be woodsmanship. And then I would say hone in on your calling and become diverse with different types of calls, but specifically still nothing's going to be natural voice. Nothing's going to be a mouth call diaphragm because you can do so much with it.